You pride yourself on being the person who handles it. You're the one people call when things go wrong because you never crack, never complain, and most importantly, you almost never ask for help. But have you ever stopped to wonder why a simple request for assistance feels like such an agonizing internal hurdle? Why does asking someone to hold a door or clarify a single sentence feel less like a favor and more like a personal surrender? Today we're dismantling that fortress of self-reliance. We aren't looking at your strength. We're uncovering why your independence is actually a sophisticated survival mechanism, a psychological shield built by your younger self to keep you safe from perceived threats. In this video, we will explore the competence myth that masks our deepest insecurities, examine the childhood origins of hyperindependence, and finally reveal the hidden cost of staying strong alone. By the end, you'll understand why your refusal to ask for help isn't a virtue. It's an invisible leash from your past. 10. The competence myth. We start with the most common lie we tell ourselves, that asking for help is an admission of incompetence. We operate under the crushing assumption that if you have to ask, it means you aren't capable of doing it yourself. This creates a mental barrier where doing it alone becomes the only metric of worthiness in your mind. Because we view help as an admission of failure, we treat every small request like a confession of inadequacy. In reality, evolutionary psychology suggests that humans are socially and evolutionarily wired to find purpose through connection. By refusing their help, you aren't just saving them time, you're actually depriving your community of the opportunity to bond with you. But if it feels so natural for others to give, why does it feel like an imposition when you ask? It's because we've confused self-sufficiency with isolation, and the next reason on our list explores the heavy psychological weight that follows even the smallest favor. 9. Deck anxiety. For many, the fear isn't about being weak, it's about the invisible leash of obligation. We hate receiving favors because we loathe the psychological weight of owing someone something. To some brains, even a small favor feels like an entry into a debt you can never fully repay. This is why we choose the grueling path of doing it ourselves. It's easier to suffer through exhaustion than it is to carry the debt of someone else's kindness. You are trying to be difficult. You are desperately trying to maintain your autonomy in a world that feels like it wants to take pieces of your agency away. But where did this fear of owing or being seen begin? To find the root, we have to go back much further than your current career or relationships. We have to look at how the wall was first built. Outer 8. The punishment loop. This is where hyper-independence transforms from a personality trait into a trauma response. Many adults who find it physically painful to ask for help, or children who face criticism, snapping, or even physical punishment when they dare to express a need. In those moments, the request became a risk, therefore silence became safety. If you learned early on that needing resulted in being told to handle it, your brain hardwired a connection between vulnerability and danger. You aren't just avoiding help today, you are successfully navigating the same survival strategy used as a child to avoid getting hurt by those who were supposed to protect you. When we look at this, it becomes clear that your strength is actually an old scar tissue over a wound that never properly healed. But there's another layer or deeper reason why asking feels like such a visceral threat to our identity. 7. Labeling anxiety. We live in an era of constant self-duration, and for many of us, being labeled as incompetent is our ultimate fear. We worry that if we ask someone to help us open a jar or fix a spreadsheet, they will see the messy reality beneath our polished exterior and categorize us as incapable. This internal war between your identity, the capable adult you strive to be, and your fear of being seen as inferior creates an exhausting cycle. By trying so hard to avoid the label of weakness, you are inadvertently creating a life of extreme exhaustion and secret isolation where no one truly knows what you're carrying. But how does this cycle actually manifest in your daily life? It often shows up in ways that feel like productivity, but are actually symptoms of the wall we've discussed so far. Denim. 6. The procrastination connection. One of the most frustrating side effects of hyper-independence is how it feeds directly into your procrastination habits. Because you refuse to ask for help, tasks that feel even slightly overwhelming become looming ghosts in the back of your mind until they reach an emergency state. You aren't lazy when you put off those small errands. You are paralyzed by the fact that there is no shortcut provided to you, because you won't let anyone else take a turn at the wheel. You end up working twice as hard under triple the stress, all to prove a point to an audience of one, yourself. Does this resonate with you? Have you ever found yourself staying up until 3 a.m. on something that could have taken 10 minutes if someone else had just stepped in for a moment? Let me know in the comments. Does your independence feel like a superpower or a cage? At the trauma of absence, we need to look at the opposite side of punishment. The trauma of absence. If you were a child who reached out in distress and no one came, or if your needs were met so inconsistently that it felt like a gamble, your brain learned a devastating lesson: help equals danger. In this scenario, asking for help doesn't feel weak, it feels terrifying because you are essentially betting on someone else's reliability to keep you safe. When that bet has failed in the past, your brain decides it is much safer to never place the bet again, leading you to become a fortress of self-reliance just to survive the uncertainty. This creates a profound sense of loneliness because while you are safe from disappointment, you are also locked out of the very support systems that make human life sustainable. But even if it started as trauma, there's an active psychological cost to keeping these walls up in your adult life. Howling mean. How for relational atrophy. When you refuse help from friends or partners, you aren't just saving them. You are participating in what psychologists call relational atrophy. By never allowing others to be useful to you, you prevent the natural flow of reciprocity that builds deep, lasting intimacy and trust. Relationships require a dance of give and take. When you refuse to take, your partner or friend eventually feels sidelined and useless in your life. You may think you're being low maintenance, but you might actually be making it impossible for the people who love you to feel connected to your journey. The tragedy here is that by trying to protect yourself from owing anyone anything, you are accidentally starving your relationships of the very nutrients they need to survive. And yet there's a reason why even when we do manage to ask for help, it feels so wrong afterward. 30. Vulnerability hangover. Have you ever asked someone for a small favor and then spent the next 3 hours feeling slightly sick or anxious? This is often described as a vulnerability hangover, a sense of regret or anxiety that can follow after sharing something personal, even if the interaction was positive. Your nervous system may react to being perceived in a state of need. Your subconscious views that moment of asking as a breach in your defenses, triggering a spike of cortisol because you were seen in a position of vulnerability. It's the brain trying to protect its borders from what it perceives as an invasion of privacy or a loss of status. The goal isn't to stop feeling that anxiety, but to recognize it for what it is, your old survival strategy trying to protect you from a threat that no longer exists. But before we get to the final reason, the one at the top of our list which ties all these together, we have to look at the ultimate cost of this behavior on your own mental health. 2. The avoidance cycle. The most insidious effect of hyper-independence is how it fuels chronic avoidance as a coping mechanism. When we can't ask for help, tasks become overwhelming. When they are overwhelming, our brains seek to avoid them at all costs, leading directly into the cycle of procrastination and low self-esteem. Every time you choose avoidance over asking for help, you reinforce the belief that you aren't capable of handling your life alone. This creates a feedback loop where your stress levels rise because of unfinished tasks, and your self-esteem drops because you feel like you're failing all while you maintain the lie that I can do this myself. You are essentially trapped in a room where the door is unlocked, but your brain is convinced it's bolted shut. But there is one final reason, the most profound and perhaps the hardest to hear, that explains why this habit is so incredibly difficult to break. Not one, the identity trap. The real deepest reason you hate asking for help isn't because you're afraid of being weak or because you don't trust people. It's because your entire identity is built on the foundation of being the person who doesn't need anyone. You have spent so much time perfecting the role of the self-sufficient survivor that letting someone in feels like a death to the version of yourself you worked so hard to create. This is the ultimate paradox. Your hyper-independence has become your primary identity, and asking for help feels like committing identity suicide. You fear that if you let someone carry even one small piece of your burden, it will somehow invalidate all the struggles you endured to get where you are today. But here is the surprising twist. The strong version of yourself that survived those early years was just a child who didn't have any other choice, but the adult you are today does have a choice. You don't have to be a fortress anymore. You can be a person. Every time you ask for help, you aren't losing your strength. You are actually gaining something much more powerful. The freedom to finally put down the weight of being enough on your own and start experiencing the beauty of connection. If you could ask for help with just one thing today, no matter how small, what would it be?